Hey folks, and welcome. This is Joe Calderon for Natural Defensive Tactics, Episode 11. Episode 11. Today's lesson is on improvised weapons. I'm going to try to state my true self and try to knock this out in 1, 2, or 3 takes and send it out to you tomorrow. So thank you for joining us today. I think you'll have some fun. Improvised weapons is the subject today. And we'll talk a little bit about lethal weapons, non-lethal weapons, dual weapons, and what their roles are. Okay. Today's lesson is really going to be focused on improvised weapons, things that you can use worst case situation. Okay. And I was just thinking as I was walking out today out of the garage to set this up in the backyard, what can I use right now? Right now. And I challenge you, wherever you're watching this video right this second, whether you're lying in bed in the hotel room, in your master bedroom suite, in your family room, in your kitchen, you could be on a treadmill at the gym. It doesn't matter. Right this second, what could you use as a weapon? And as I was walking out of the garage, the first thing I picked up and focused on was this roll of tape. Okay, and believe it or not, this improvised weapon can do some damage. Can do a lot of damage. So that's the lesson today. But first, let's talk a little bit about some principles of weapons. Okay. The principles of weapons is really, I have two of them. One is everything is a potential weapon. Everything. That could be from a rolled up magazine. Okay. This has been rolled with duct tape. It can be a roll of tape. It can be pretty much anything you can imagine. And we'll go into some improvised weapons that I think are useful and effective in an environment or a scenario on the streets. Okay? Now, the other principle is, believe it or not, you are a weapon. Okay? And I'm not just talking about biting, sharp elbows, hard forehead, knuckles, palms, knees, I'm not just talking about that. There's a reason why we're at the top of the food chain, okay? And that reason is because we've got something up top, okay? And because we can use that knowledge, that know-how, to construct and MacGyver things better than a jaguar or a cheetah or a snake, that's the reason we're at the top of the food chain. So this is your weapon, okay? This is your weapon. Today's lesson is to give you some techniques, some ideas on what you can use with this in order to help yourself get out of a bad situation. All right? There is a reason why we're at the top of the food chain. It's primal instinct. And the one area I'd like to focus on just a bit is survival. Okay? Survival. And we talked about indignation in an earlier episode, about overcoming fear, using fear to overcome a very die-hard situation. I wanted to share a quick story with you. This is a story about a gentleman by the name of Hershey Miyamura. And I met him, met him years ago, probably in the early 2000s, late 1990s. His granddaughter was applying to go to the Air Force Academy, and I was the vessel, the advisor to help her get into the academy. And when she got her appointment to the academy, her appointment was a Medal of Honor recipient appointment, which is very rare, okay? And I asked her about her grandfather, and he flew out for the ceremony for her going into the acceptance to the Air Force Academy. And I had a few moments with him, probably about 15 to 20 minutes with him, and I brought my son. We took pictures, which was really neat. But he told me the story of his Medal of Honor. And back then, there was a few books, there's a few articles. Today, you can actually Google him, Wikipedia him. There's actually a series on Netflix about all the Medal of Honor recipients, and he's one of them. But I remember that story he told me, and it was pure indignation. Okay, he's a Japanese American from Gallup, New Mexico, World War II vet, and later a Korean War vet. Now his story, I think it was April 24th or 25th in Korea, 1951. Now he was, I think, near what we call the Imjin River. I kind of know Korea a little bit. That river kind of borders the western, near the 38 parallel that divides the north and the south. I'm half Korean, so I kind of know a little bit about that history. But anyhow, he's there, and he's a squad leader for a machine gun patrol out there. It's a night attack, and the Chinese overrun his position, and it's so bad that he orders his squad to retreat while he covers them. He stays in that place, in that machine gun by himself, and makes as much cover as he can. He's overrun, and he's now hand to hand and kills 10 Chinese troops. Okay, he then leaves, renders aid to some of the folks that were retreating, and as the Chinese troops are still coming, he gets into another machine gun encampment and unloads all the ammunition in that particular spot. He is finally overcome. I think he was hand to hand, and someone threw a grenade in his direction, and he pretty much was not mortally wounded, obviously, but he was hurt, and basically laid down and pretend like he was dead. Okay, he was captured soon after that and spent 2 years in North Korea during the Korean War. Now, he was awarded the Medal of Honor secretly because he was a captive still. Think about that, okay? And when I spoke to him about this story, he said two things that were very poignant. The first thing he said was, I don't know what the big deal was, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was my duty. And the second thing he said was, those are my guys, you know? Those are my guys, you know, like family. How dare they? So, talk about indignation. What a story. I just wanted to share that with you. So, folks, let's talk about improvised weapons now. When I think of a weapon, like you do, you're probably thinking about something that's lethal. So maybe a pistol, semi-automatic weapon, a long gun, maybe a big tactical knife or something like that. This is a very, very hard metal object, contact weapon that doubles as nunchucks. Now, I don't do nunchucks, but I think that's cool. But that's what you think about when you think about lethal weapons. But you don't necessarily think about improvised weapons. And what an improvised weapon is something, if somebody, an aggressor comes to your house, into your car, your office space, on an airplane, walking through a park, what do I have on me that's a weapon? Now, we went back and said, remember, you're always the weapon, right? That's the key. But there are tools that can assist you, maybe be a little bit more effective, okay? If you've got to get into your NDT stands and this is all you have, guess what? That's all you have, and that's okay. But, you know, it'd be nice to walk around with a baseball bat. Now, if you're not at the baseball field and don't have a 7-year-old next to you that has a baseball glove, this can be construed as a weapon, okay? So let's talk about things that you carry out and about every day that you can use as a tool to defend yourself. I'm going to start with the ones that are not as obvious. This is a simple baseball cap, and because I don't have coverage anymore, it works really well for me in a sunny day. But if all I do is roll this bill up as tight as possible and hold it as such and deliver these blows, it's very effective. Another contact weapon would be your umbrella, or maybe that rolled up magazine we talked about earlier on the previous episode. Here's that rolled up magazine that is been reinforced with duct tape, because I used to do it use these as seminars. And this thing, same way. Now, you want to hold it kind of like in that forward grip, that knife grip we were talking about on the last episode. Don't give up too much room here, because if you do, the chances of you getting disarmed are pretty high, and you won't have control over your weapon. So this improvised weapon, this distance works really well with these strikes and these strikes, soft tissue areas. Can be used with this strike, but the problem with that strike is depends on how tight you rolled up the magazine, and you won't have duct tape to reinforce it. A better weapon maybe is if you're traveling or you're in an area that it rains a lot, a small umbrella like such. Great contact weapon. You're holding the same way, same distance, same strikes here, same strikes, same strikes. Simple umbrella. You can use a longer umbrella, right? This is more a weapon to use at a distance though. And the best way to hold umbrella, again, you don't want to swing it this way. It'll probably break after the first or second hit. It may even open up on you. But if you take your hand and hold it as such, kind of as a push away tool, okay? Just reinforcing it, that outside 90 and pushing away, but also as a puncture tool, keeping the individual away from you. It could cause a lot of damage, especially to the throat, the head, the eyes, all kinds of different areas. Trust me. On your body, you can carry an assortment of things. A highlighter, a Sharpie, a reinforced pen, maybe a tactical pen that actually does write, using it the same way, soft tissue areas, puncture wounds, okay? Causes a lot of trauma. Dual weapons, so in other words, we talked about the knife. It's a tool, but it's also can be used as a weapon. On my business trips, I carry a few things in my bag that won't be taken away by TSA. The one thing I take is a lock, and it has a key, obviously, but it's a small lock. It's reinforced. It's pretty heavy. It's small, but it's pretty heavy. But if all I do is I take my finger through the lock itself, it now becomes a weapon. Again, nobody would take this away from me at the airport or a concert. A carabiner, a simple climbing tool that everybody has on their backpacks, right? This one here is wide enough where I can stick my fingers through and use it as brass knuckles in a way, that sort of thing. This one here also carries a blade. Now, I would not recommend you taking this through the airport, okay? In every one of my vehicles, I have this tool. And this tool has an assortment, a wrench, a screwdriver, but it also has two separate blades. So if this is all you have, boy, this is the one I would pick, obviously. The water bottle, for goodness sake. Everybody on the street, at the park, in the mall has a water bottle, a hard water bottle. Even with a reinforced strap that you can use as a swinging tool, right? So a simple water bottle, being able to deploy this thing in someone's face is huge, I think a flashlight for me is probably the easiest one. Now I have a tactical light, and this one here is extremely bright. Serrated edge. Can cause a lot of damage, but probably not smart to take into a mall or a movie theater or somewhere where they would feel a little uncomfortable with it. But a smaller light, as such, the beam is almost as strong, but it also doubles as a weapon. So I can use this, again, puncture wounds to the side of the head, all the soft tissue areas, chest, growing, same device. Now this thing is nice because I can go through any security and they're not going to take this away from me. They won't take this away from me. Having a backpack, right? Boy, that's a shield. It can also be something to grab and pull on somebody. You can use that for an assortment of ways. Your belt, okay? Same way, defending it against a knife or an edged weapon. A belt is a fantastic tool, especially if you got a pretty big buckle on the end of this. All right. So today we talked about improvised weapons, things that you can just pick up. And I want you to think about when you walk out tomorrow morning or later today, as you're walking out to your car, your bike, what you would use if someone came up to you and was being very aggressive in that moment. That's the key. I think that's it. Thank you again for joining us on episode 11 on natural defensive tactics. I'll be back hopefully in next week. Thank you again.